Okay, so this is the first in a series of videos where we're going to be taking a design that you've made in Photoshop and turning it into a file that we can use in Dreamweaver to make an actual HTML file. So after you've downloaded the files from Carmen, put them in a place that you're going to want to work on them, you can go ahead and open that folder and open the one Photoshop file in there. This is just an example of a website that I've made for our purposes today. So here's just a simple layout, a few links, area for content, and then a footer down here. So what we want to do with this layout is subdivide it into rows and columns, and then turn those into what we would call a table in HTML. That's basically like a puzzle piece or a puzzle where all the pieces are fitting together into their rows and columns. So we're going to be making those pieces now, and the first step in that process is to set a series of rulers or guides in your Photoshop file. So if your rulers aren't showing, I mean your guides, they're up here in this upper and left hand side of your Photoshop window. You can go into the view and then just make sure rulers is checked here, and that's going to be your first step in setting the guides. So once those are there, you can grab in this section of the ruler and pull down into the area of the image to set a guide. So I'm going to set the rows first. So there's really only a couple rows. There's this header row that I've set up here. There's a content row. We're going to make this rule line its own row. And then this bottom area is its own row. We don't need to set one at the bottom because there's already one set. Once we got the rows set, we can set the columns within those rows. So up here in the top, we're going to keep this website area its own. We're going to set each of these buttons as their own column, because we'll want it to be each one of them to be their own piece. So we'll set each one as its own column. You'll see down here that these guides that we've set, they kind of cut in to this copy area down here. That's fine. We're going to combine these sections later once we turn them into slices. So just look at each row and set your appropriate number of columns within that row first, and then we'll worry about combining them later. So I've got my header row set up now with 4 columns. This content row I'm going to set as 2 columns, one for the image and one for this area of copy. So now I've got those 2 areas. These 2 down here don't need any extra columns, they're just going to be 1. So we'll leave it at that. So after you've got all of your guides set, there's no right or wrong way to do this, kind of just logical in breaking out the areas of your page. Once we've got those set, we're going to save this file with those guides so that we can always come back and change them if we need to easily. So I'm just going to add guides to the end of that as a Photoshop file with the layers, and we'll save that as a done file. So that's setting guides. The next video is going to look at turning these guides into slices and then exporting that as an HTML file. So continue to the next video and we'll look at slices. So now that we've set up our guides, we're ready to turn those into slices, which is going to create the areas of that table in your HTML file. So we've got the guides. In your toolbar over here, there is a option right here that's called the slice tool. You'll want to select that. And once you've done that, you'll see up here you have a new option that's called Slices from Guides, and that's what you'll want to select. So that's going to create these areas now that are called slices. So these are the areas that will turn into the table in your HTML file. Like I was saying previously, we want to combine these areas. So you'll see that we wanted this white website area to be one piece, but because we added a slice down here to separate the two sections of the content area, it broke that white box up. So we want to combine those. We can do that by making sure that the Slice Select tool is selected in your toolbar, and then go into your image here and select these two slices that we want to combine by hitting Shift and Select, and then right click or control click on the area and say combine slices. So that's just going to make one slice out of those two that it used to be. Also at this point, it's going to be easier to hide your guides so that you can see where the actual slices are as opposed to the guides. To do that, just go into View, Show, and then Guides, and deselect those, and it will be hidden. So we want now each of these buttons to be their own slice, which they are. But this content area is all broken up because we set those vertical guides through there to set the buttons. So we want to combine these down here by shift clicking again and then control click to combine slices. So now we have our two areas of the content row. And then we wanted each of these rows down here to be just two straight rows with no columns, or with one column. So we'll do the same here to combine the slices. And that will give us the slices that we need. So they should be in sequence here. You'll see it says 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on. And you should have the same number of slices and the same number. If this number down here, the last slice, is higher, that means that you have an extra slice in there that you'll just need to go in and kind of adjust. You can adjust these any way you want, and by moving it, you're creating another slice. So if you wanted this to sit right up against this image, you could do that. It's just creating another slice in here, so you'll see this is 5 now and this is 6, instead of this being 6. So just something to look at when you're creating these slices. You should have the same number of slices corresponding to the same numbered area. So that's how you create the slices out of your guides. In the next video, we're going to look at making this file now into an HTML file. That'll be the last step with Photoshop before being able to get into Dreamweaver and working on the HTML. So the next video will be saving the slices into an HTML file.